On this episode of Athletic Training Chat, we have Kyle Rutledge, who is a repeat guest. We had meant to connect and do this at NATA in Indianapolis, but time just was not of the essence for us to get it done. Kyle had a lot going on, and if you are going to convention, it is just busy to try and sit down and carve out an hour to have this conversation. But with that, we are talking about the big changes Kyle has gone through in his career, finishing up some school, and also really finding and building a community through some common things that people generally enjoy, and how impactful that's been just to help a lot of people connect with someone and take a minute to enjoy things in life and within the profession. So a lot of great takeaways from this one that we're looking forward to sharing with you. If you haven't yet checked out the Athletic Training Daily Journal, that is a 366-day journal to just reflect on different aspects of leadership, management, practice, all kinds of things to help impact you as a professional and personally. We hope that you would check it out. You can find it on Amazon.com. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Just by listening to this, you're helping us support getting out some Mueller recovery tubs to schools that need it to help take care of their athletes, not only this summer, but into the future. But without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Well, welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are on for, it's kind of like round 2.5 with Kyle Rutledge, since we got to talk to him at NATA. But second full interview with Kyle, a lot to catch up on and talk about, and that's kind of going to be the whole focus of this, is just kind of some big changes that they've had, that you've had, I guess, building a community and kind of looking at different aspects of that and why that's been important. And yeah, and then we were talking about, we'll do some amended AT chat questions. But before we get into everything, Kyle, just if you wanted to kind of give an update, and I didn't even look back, it's been years, which seems crazy, since we last formally talked. But just what you've been up to, what's going on, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Yeah, I think the last time you and I talked was actually 2019, right before the pandemic started.
It really has been years then. Jeez.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, a lot has changed for me. A lot has changed for you as well.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, so where to begin? So probably, let's see. I am So my name's Kyle Rutledge. I've actually been an athletic trainer for about 17 years now. I am actually no longer in the secondary school setting. I have transitioned into the physician practice setting, and I've been there since August of 2021. A lot has changed. We're just on the coming out the other side of a global pandemic, which has definitely been an eventful thing for all of us involved. Let's see, I went through the shutdown where everything was actually shut down at the high schools, and we got transitioned into working in the hospital setting, actually running our temperature stations for our primary hospital. We were doing round the clock temperature stations, running the operations. We were actually also running PPE to all the floors on the hospital, and assisting in any way possible during that global pandemic, which that was definitely a challenge for everyone really involved. And then we came back. Then we got back to the schools probably, I want to say around not September, like mid-July. And then we went through a football pandemic season, which that is probably one of the biggest challenges I've had in my career, like doing social distancing, making sure people were wearing masks, making sure people aren't sharing water bottles. That, yeah, it was a interesting time. And then 2021, I had hand surgery, and then like towards the end of that, like the 2020, no, actually 2020, I had hand surgery, and then 2021, I actually made the leap to transition from the high school setting to the orthopedic physician practice setting where I'm currently at now. And I actually am set to graduate with my master's in healthcare administration finally in August of this year. So it's coming right up.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'll have 2 master's degrees. So we'll see where that takes me now.
Awesome. The pandemic put a lot of pressure on a lot of people to make transition. I think not just in AT, but I think people saw that a lot. I know it played a role in it for me, but wasn't necessarily the only driver. But for you, what kind of led up to this transition in job settings, other than, as I've said before, the secondary school being, I got to imagine, one of the most difficult. I've never done it, but always applaud anybody who has, just because of the sheer volume and intensity of that setting. But what led up to the transition?
Yeah, I do agree. Secondary school setting it's great. I really did love it. I actually did 7 to 12, so covering junior
Oh
high,
yeah,
high school, that was definitely a great thing. But what kind of led up to it? I mean, I always kind of knew once I started my master's that going into the administrative side of healthcare was going to be in my future. I didn't know if it was going to be in the hospital setting or moving up into like sports medicine, like management, somewhere in that. But I kind of just knew that that was eventually where my life and career was going to be taking me. It happened a little actually sooner than I expected, but what really led up to it was coming back from the pandemic football season when everything shut down in March of 2020. Coming back, I went through football season. That was rough. I'm not gonna lie. I just kind of felt like my everything I was getting. I was always a little more tired. I was just everything was just a little bit extra. It was things just seemed to bother me a little bit more than they had in the past. I don't really know what it was, and looking back, I was starting the beginning phases of burnout, and I I was sleeping like less. I was waking up at night. I was like not exercising. I was losing part of my identity because I was just getting burnout, and I just was feeling overwhelmed, and the constant schedule change just kind of really it felt like it just took over me. Then I did have hand surgery, which was actually a blessing in disguise. Well, because I had actually been putting it off for years
hmm
because I wanted to take care of the kids because athletic trainers are sometimes not the best patients, or they won't always take care of themselves first.
sure.
I mean, it's honesty, and I think you can agree that sometimes we'll let things linger longer than they should.
We tend to be a lot of a do as I say, not as I do kind of scenario.
Exactly. So I had my surgery, and it was just kind of I had 6 weeks off. I didn't really know what to do with myself. I was bored, but even though I had told like the coaches, the administrators at the high school that I was going to be out on leave, it just seemed like my personal boundaries weren't being respected. About coaches wanting to know what player statuses were. I gave them the information about who to contact, what was to be done, and it was like it just fell on deaf ears.
Hmm.
Um, like I was getting constant phone calls, like wanting to know what was going on with an athlete when I had been there in a few weeks, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, have you
Right.
checked emails? No,
No.
I know. Imagine that we had coaches not answering emails. I'm sure that may have happened once or twice to you. But and I had athletic training students, so when I came back, it was good because I always looked at it like this was kind of my struggle and my battle. I came back. I always still made sure I put them first. I put and but when I came back, I just felt like it was my time. I had achieved everything that I could at the school, and I think it was just time. It just felt like it was time to move on. But what kept me going through that time was really I have athletic training students. I should not let how I'm feeling really affect their learning experience because that is all really about them. So I always looked at it like I got to take care of them, give them the best experience possible, and help them grow. And I need to take care of my athletes. That's what I'm there to do. But at, and it was just at the right time. Like it actually got to the point where my progress in my master's was actually being inhibited because I would just get home and I was just exhausted and I didn't want to do anything. And it just became, I had to force myself to even get through an assignment for my class,
Mm-hmm.
where previously I was just letting it go 100 miles an hour. So then I saw the job posting and I sent a text message to the person that hired me, who's a division director at where we're at now. And I said, hey, there's a physician practice AT position open. And she was like, have you applied yet? So that was a kind of a good indicator and a sign that I should probably kick the tires on this.
There you go. Yeah, it's a pretty clear one. Always nice.
It's been a great fit for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
Kind of going back to the burnout a little bit, you mentioned that you felt like you were losing a part of yourself or that was slipping away. And I got to imagine at least a couple people who will listen to this have either been through burnout or are potentially on the verge. Maybe not so much right now, as this is probably going to be released here in the summer, but by the time it comes out, it might be right in the middle of preseason camp for anybody in the secondary or the collegiate setting. So the burnout may already be starting. But if you don't mind, and you'd be willing, what did you notice? Like, what were the signs of where like you were no longer you, or like it was really starting to impact you? Outside of the exhaustion, and you mentioned the assignment. Was there anything else that you were just like, whoa, like that I'm glad I paid attention to?
I was a little more withdrawn. Like I would always when I was at work, I would go visit my athletic director pretty frequently, pretty daily. I'd go talk to our coaches. I wasn't doing that as much. It was just I sometimes, to be honest, just was not wanting to go to work. I still did. I blocked that out. I put my best foot forward, best face forward, but it was just I sometimes dreaded almost coming to work. I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but it was just like, okay, what am I coming into today?
Sure.
It was just I was just noticing increasing frustrations. Like if a kid did have COVID, I wasn't made aware of it, and then they'd come back, hey, they have COVID. What do they do now? I'm like, I didn't even know you had COVID, so let's start there. It was just I felt like I was not eating as my normal like diet. I was sometimes binging a little bit more on food, and then there'd just be times where I would wake up like and through the night just thinking constantly about work. I wasn't able to make that disconnect between home and work, and before I was.
Yeah, I think I've heard from other people, and it was always something I've kind of kept in the back of my mind. Like, there's going to be bad days at work. Like, it's just part, especially in our profession, there's just going to be tough days, whether that's a lot of injuries, coaches or whoever it is, even, physicians, if you're in a clinical practice, it could be a whole myriad of things, but it's really when you start not looking forward to it more frequently than you're looking forward to it. I think that's definitely a sign that maybe it's time to reconsider what you're doing, where you're at, and if it's truly what you want to be doing. When in regards to that, where it, like you said, you almost dreaded it, not because you didn't want to help people, but just because of what had been going on.
Yeah, exactly. I always look at it like I'm gonna have good and bad days, like you said.
Hmm.
But if I have like 85% good days and 50% just disasters, I'm doing pretty damn well.
Sure.
There is no job on the face of the planet where you're going to have the best days ever every time. Like,
Right.
that's impossible. So it seemed like I was having a little more bad days than good.
Sure.
It just felt like it was time.
So, what have been the biggest benefits in the new role that you found?
Um, are you talking besides the 8 to 4:30 and
I mean, that seems to be the big one that, a lot of people truly enjoy, but if there are any other ones outside of that.
okay. One, my work-life balance is much better.
Sure.
Um, I'm actually able to do things with my friends on the weekends. I feel like I'm a little bit more rejuvenated, like as a person. I'm able to work more on my master's program at night. I'm able to do a lot more things that I really enjoy, um, where I'm able to actually take into consideration like what I like to do outside of work, and I'm actually able to starting to figure out myself again, which is great. Um, and also, it's given me an opportunity to see how healthcare works, how ATs can be utilized in the physician practice role, and working in a hand orthopedics, which is what I primarily do. I see a lot of variations of hand injuries that I would normally not see as an AT in the traditional setting. And to make it even more interesting, one of our hand surgeons is also a plastic surgeon. So I'm seeing a lot of tissue reconstructions and skin grafts and free flaps that I had minimal knowledge of, but now it's like I actually really enjoy those cases because they're very complex and there's so much detail that can be that has to go into the surgery.
I know in my transition out, just like looking at X-rays and even just hearing about, joints that like I'm sure I knew they, obviously I knew they existed, but just because of working in a otherwise healthy, younger population, you just never really dealt with, and like learning about, the different types of injections, and I had never heard of a hyaluronic acid injection before because why would I have? I worked with 18 to 22-year-olds. Like I just it was completely foreign to me because I'd just never been exposed to it. So it's a whole different realm of knowledge when it comes to that.
Oh yeah, like I know there's some injections that we'll use for like different disease processes. And so like for Dupuytren's disease, which like there's a medication for that our um, physicians will use to help treat Dupuytren's disease and rupture that cord. So I didn't even know that was really a thing until I started. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Also thinking
eye-opening.
about insurance companies. That's yeah. We won't go into that.
No, that could be a whole other multi-part series. Obviously, you just said some of the benefits. What challenges, other than, not having heard of a few things, but what other challenges have you found in the new role?
Um, one, I need to realize that doing I we do 15-minute appointments, so that's for the whole appointment. So I need to, at first I was a little slower, like, because we're supposed to, maybe if we have time to do a quick assessment.
Mhm.
It was getting that down, getting down my assessments. I did struggle initially, like not knowing what to do with myself, especially that first fall on a Friday. I had been on a sideline for a football game for 10 years, like every Friday, except one for my brother's wedding. But every Friday night, I knew what I was doing. In that first um, season, I didn't know what to do with myself on Friday nights. I felt like out of place, and I felt a little restless, but I I figured it out. I did okay.
Yeah, I remember that feeling too of, what am I going to do with all these free weekends when I stopped working cross country, track and field, and it didn't take long to fill them in, um, and get used to it. So
Right. The dog went on a lot of walks and had a lot of playtime during that
there
time.
you go.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, it's been a great fit. I get to cast a lot more than I did, especially like in the high school setting. Like
Sure.
it would be done if it was casted, it was done in the ortho office. So
Right.
but yeah.
So one of the other main topics that we wanted to cover, which if people have followed on Twitter would be a part of this, is the AT Ice Cream Club. And so I just want you to start off just with what it is, how it came to be,
Oh my gosh. Like
and
I'm
what
sure,
it's turned into.
I'm sure you may have seen it on Twitter a few times.
Oh, me personally, yes.
All
Trying
right.
to curb my ice cream intake, and that's not helping.
Oh, you're welcome for that.
Yeah, right.
Um, so let's see. The AT Ice Cream Club. So initially, it started as the ice cream thread. If you go back and you look up hashtag ice cream thread, it was around 2020. I think it was actually 2021 when it initially started. So initially, so the four people that actually were involved is Abby Denon, Nate Irvin, myself, and Hannah Clayton. Um, so Abby would always post her ice cream on Twitter, and she posted it, and then we just one post after another. So it was basically ATs posting pictures of their ice cream on Twitter, just kind of a lighthearted thing to one show we like ice cream. It's harmless. AT Twitter can be very divisive to say the least, and argumentative. I mean, for better and worse.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
But this was something that was non-controversial. We were just posting pictures of ice cream. It just kind of blossomed, and eventually, like My Mochi, the ice cream company, got involved, and they were participating in it. They've actually been a great supporter of the AT Ice Cream Club. Like they have actually done some really kind things for the four of us to and promote their product as well. Nothing financially, but
Sure.
they're really supportive, and I do appreciate them. But it's been a lot of fun, and eventually just kind of I think the thread actually got up to like 3 months of just consecutive ice cream picture days, and then I don't remember exactly who it is, and I apologize to them because in there I think it might have been Nate was like, let's just make the ice cream club, and then the AT Ice Cream Club came about, and it's really just a chance for athletic trainers to take pictures of their ice cream, because all of us do have that little local ice cream shop that we all go to, and we just were taking pictures. It's just sharing fun pictures from all the different ice cream we have in this country, from the regions, what everyone's into. it's just kind of a fun thing to do. Um, and yeah, there's really only 3 rules. Enjoy ice cream. Take pictures of your ice cream before you eat it. Phone does eat first. And on Sundays, we have Sundays.
Nice.
I
Very
mean,
nice.
and who is going to really argue against ice cream?
Careful how you ask. I'm sure we could find somebody out there that would come
I
up with something.
I will gladly debate. But yeah, it's just kind of neat. And actually, last year in Philadelphia, we had 3 people show up. We had me, Nate, and Andrea Kowalski actually show up for, like, we all went out and got ice cream together. And this year, we went to in Indianapolis. We went to an ice cream shop, and there was a pretty good amount of people there. I don't remember exactly how many. I'm sure if you
Mhm.
look at the AT Ice Cream Club page, you would see that it was pretty well attended. So it's actually gaining momentum, and and also actually can bring other ATs together, that you may not normally interact with on Twitter.
Sure.
So, and at the social, we were like, most of us kind of knew each other, but it's another way for athletic trainers to connect. So yeah, it was fun.
Awesome. And that was kind of one question, I know it's something that's been important to you, and obviously you've been very active in it, other than the obvious of enjoying ice cream, what is it meant to, kind of build a small, like, little community or whatnot within a larger one? Was that a focus, or is it that just kind of naturally evolve as it
It kind of,
grew in popularity, if you will?
yeah, it was just kind of one of those things that just manifested itself. I mean, it just grew naturally. I don't know, like, why. It's just certain people, like, you just are naturally just drawn to, because it's like, oh, now I see you, and we had now we're like friends. I mean, I've talked to um for them pretty regularly. I mean, it's kind of interesting how that's happened.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
Um, Anything that we didn't cover about the job transition, kind of the role of burnout, ice cream? Um,
what's
I'll
your favorite ice cream?
Oh, I was gonna throw that in there to ask you. I'm a big chocolate chip cookie dough
Okay.
kind of person, and if we ever go to a place that's in our town, and if I go with the double scoop, I'll throw on like a salted caramel on the top there, or like a snapping turtle, just to throw some extra flavor in there.
All right.
What's your go-to?
I'm a huge caramel guy as well.
Okay.
Caramel turtle or salted caramel is pretty solid, or a caramel waffle cone.
Ooh.
They, if they have it, is always a uh, uh, great choice. I feel like ice cream and food in general can really just bring people together, and especially coming out of the other side of the pandemic. How many athletic trainers, like, had you talked to on Zoom, had you talked to on Twitter, and now that we're out of it, you can actually go meet them. You can go have dinner. You can go have ice cream. You can have whatever with them. Like, you actually get to sit down and talk to them. So it's actually, food to me is actually a way for people to connect.
No, I'm fully with you there.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. With regards to the transition, you're not going to know everything right off the bat. Learning hospital EMR compared to athletic trainer EMR is,
Yeah.
it can be an adventure. It can be a challenge, but it will get better. Like, at first, just don't get overwhelmed. I'm sure when you learned your system's EMR, it was a lot to take in.
Petrified that would put in something wrong because it was going to go to somebody's insurance or a bill, and like, not that obviously in the collegiate and secondary, like, you're treating real patients, but it is purely on the documentation side of it. Like, that's where it ends. Whereas in this role, it's getting shot off to coding and business and everything else. And that was just like hyper sensitive to make sure I was not clicking something wrong because I did not want somebody to have to deal with that, just knowing how much of a pain that would be on the back end. So that was my biggest like, oh boy, like let's really make sure we're doing this correctly.
Yeah. And I'm lucky that I have there was already athletic trainers in the physician practice setting. So when I was doing training, I would always double check, be like, okay, they like this. They want this draw for the injection. Okay. Like they want this for their wrist. They want this for their elbow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, we actually have clinical tip sheets now that, okay, for fracture care, you want to use this note. You want to, for if they have trigger finger, they have this note. Like it kind of helps with that. And I don't like sometimes AT like we won't ask questions. You need to ask questions.
Yes.
Yes. And ask the physician for the like what diagnosis they want to get put in. Like that's because it depends. That depends on if it'll get approved, if it won't. Will it need reimbursement? Will it need what will it need?
Yep.
Um, and will it need prior auth? Like, and also you want to make sure that they get the correct reimbursement
Right.
for everything. And in entering X-ray orders, that was in entering MRIs, like that was that can definitely be like you want to make sure that those are correct. Like
Yes, you do.
doing a quick timeout is it's it's so vital.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, jumping into the AT chat questions, the semi-amended ones. Now having been in the clinical setting, for a little while and having spent a lot of time in the secondary, where do you see AT going in the next 5 to 10 years with just a different viewpoint on it, and with finishing up your master's in health administration?
um, I think that the future of AT is very bright. It's especially with everything. I mean, the awareness of what an athletic trainer can do goes beyond um, the secondary school setting. That was obviously very, very, very well demonstrated, and the importance of an athletic trainer in sports that was very well demonstrated. That was exemplified back in January. Um, I think that in the it's gonna show how diverse, especially in our setting. Like we're in physician practice, you and I are. It's gonna like I think the value of the athletic trainer is going to be shown very much so in the emerging settings. So physician practice, military, performing arts. I have a feeling those are going to be the next wave of athletic trainers of where we're gonna see the next like blow up. Um, and I think that we're gonna. I think also we're a lot more. I think that as a professional, we're getting better at recognizing work-life balance.
Agreed.
Um,
We'll leave that one there because that could also be a full conversation about many different viewpoints on that one. But uh, what advice did you go back and give yourself, not so much as a young athletic trainer, but as you were starting to feel those signs of burnout? If you could kind of go back and, if you know, to where that was and be like, hey, pay attention to this.
like I would probably tell myself take a day off. Like I would never. I was that person that would never take a day off during the fall season. Like take a day off where you're lighter and get that PRN coverage so your athletes are still taken care of, but take care of yourself too.
Right.
Um, block. you, it was, I did struggle with it, but fortunately, I did have someone that, like, my manager was like, "Hey, you need to figure out a day to take time off." Um, of course, I didn't listen, but because
Right.
again, it's commitment to the job. But I think that when you recognize those signs, you need to get help. Like, be like, "Hey, I think I need a day like coming up."
I
Take
think that's a good one
Don't be afraid to ask for that help.
for sure. What has been maybe the most influential resource you found, especially now in your new role?
Um, I think that in the new role, um, like my physicians are fantastic at what they do. They were also a teaching hospital.
Mm-hmm.
We have an orthopedic residency program, and I think that one of the good things that we have is actually our physicians are so big on education that they don't mind if you ask questions about what it is we're doing. Like, also, like my teammates now are we're all in the same setting, and some of them have more experience than the others. So asking them on what do you do in this situation, how do you handle this phone call, like they have been excellent resources.
Awesome.
And obviously Twitter, like especially with the like there's other ATs in physician practice.
Yeah.
And I've even had other athletic trainers that went from physician practice, from secondary school to physician practice, reach out to me like, "Hey, how did you handle this? How did this happen?
Right.
Like, is this like?" So it's that support system.
Absolutely. The answer to this one may be obvious, but we'll ask anyway. I don't think I asked this one to you last time. It's a relatively new one. But as an AT in your role, how do you take care of yourself?
How do I? Oh, like, I'll spend a lot more time on myself. I'll go enjoy ice cream, obviously.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be in there.
Also, if you look on my Twitter, I've actually made it a point that Saturday and Sunday mornings that I make a point that I actually go outside. Um, I have weekend coffee that I actually grind.
Okay.
I have bags of coffee that I only use in the weekends that I grind, and I sit out on my deck, and like while my dog runs around the yard, I sit and enjoy my coffee. So I've actually built that in. I've made it a point to like actually sit and relax on the weekends, like
For sure.
enjoy my coffee, enjoy hanging out with the dog, and it's just a moment to sit and reflect. Like that's Saturday and Sundays, like and it just became deck coffee.
I have been meaning to compliment you on your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mug. Big fan. I have not commented yet, but I will applaud you on the next one.
Yeah.
Big fan of that one. So,
And do you see the Seinfeld mugs too?
oh yeah, I will see them all, but especially a big fan of the Ninja Turtles.
I mean,
Um,
I like my oversized coffee mugs. They are
yes,
they're a beautiful thing.
I may or may not watch this Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze every once in a while. It's a hidden classic. I just feel like people.
It's beautiful.
It's a great movie.
I mean, what's even funnier is like I didn't realize it until I was older. Like Kevin Nash, the wrestler, was in it. I was like, "What is this?"
Oh, I'll have to pay attention to that next
He was
time.
Shredder.
What's that?
He was Shredder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll look into that.
Yeah. I mean, that was that. And I mean, and now that I'm on my physician practice setting, I can actually like. That's another thing. I've actually been able to go and do things during like at night. Like
Sure.
I've gone to like Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and things like that. I was dragging ass the next day when I was at the clinic because I wouldn't get home till like 12:30, 1 o'clock, but it was totally worth it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, And yeah, I
If
know
you
you
could,
like,
oh,
what's
go
up?
ahead.
Oh, I know you like my deck coffee, so you can, yeah, feel free to. You can join on that thread. I don't care. Like that's actually something kind of neat too. And like I just thought of it. So the AT Ice Cream Club also kind of spurred into the AT Coffee Crew.
Yeah, which I saw that as well.
You've seen that as well. Like, so it's actually kind of split off, and so it's kind of neat how the Ice Cream Club kind of showed the like kind of template and actually how and then we have the coffee crew, so it's kind of neat. Now we have the AT Embers, which is on our adult beverages that we like. So it's just kind of, it started as the Ice Cream Club and now it's into different
Sure.
variations. So yeah.
If you could change or eliminate one thing, it could be a modality, a common practice, mindset in the profession of athletic training, what would it be?
Besides ice and stem for every treatment, that not being treatments.
That's a good one to start with, but yeah, if you get another one, go for it.
Let's see. I think that just because of how we've done it in the past is not necessarily wrong, but it's not the way it always has to be. Like
Yes, I like the throwing in there that it was no one's saying it was done wrong. I think that's a really important point that gets overlooked.
yeah, it's not that it was wrong. It's not, doesn't always have to be that way. Like I think that
Absolutely.
as we evolve as a profession, we're coming up with more ways to treat injuries, actually be more effective, how to communicate better. Our diagnostics are getting better. Our rehab equipment's getting a lot better. So there's a lot more options too. And and also on the counterpoint, just because it's the latest and greatest does not mean it's the best.
Fair enough there.
The way it should, the way it needs to be.
Last question, just to repeat one. What does being an athletic trainer mean to you?
I mean, so my answer is probably a little different than it was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Being an athletic trainer to me really means that I'm a healthcare provider. Whether I'm in the secondary school setting, the physician's practice setting, I'm there to treat patients and take care of them and to advocate for them to get the best result for that patient. Yeah.
perfect. I don't think it needs any more expanding beyond that.
Yeah.
Just to wrap things up then, if people wanted to connect with you, touch base, get involved in the ice cream club, what are the best ways to go about it?
Okay. Best way to reach out to me is on Twitter. I am at KSR_ATC. I do have a LinkedIn profile. If you type in Kyle Rutledge Athletic Trainer, I should be one of the first people that show up. Like I'm not as active on there. I'm much more active on Twitter. I do have a Facebook as well. It's the same name. But yeah, the best place to really connect with me is on Twitter. I do have a TikTok, but it's really not much of anything. It's probably about 90% TikToks of me feeding the dog ice cream.
Fair enough.
Which, I mean, if you need some lighthearted stuff,
There you go.
feel free. That's also at KSR_ATC.
Awesome. Well, it was great to formally catch up and follow up. I know we touched base a little bit at NATA, but I think this was great and always powerful to hear from people that have kind of gone through what a lot of people are probably feeling, and just knowing that there are others out there that have gone through it, and there's ways to come through it and still find a ton of purpose in what you do and the job you have, and find ways to really keep everything positive. So I appreciate you sharing all of that and your story.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's always great to catch up.
Awesome. Well, until next time, we will wrap up there.
Sounds good. Thanks again.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Athletic Training Chat with Kyle Rutledge. Really hope you got some good takeaways from this. Check out the AT Ice Cream Club if you're a fan of ice cream and want to get involved there. I have yet to post a picture on AT Coffee Club, but that will be coming, especially as our little one gets us up nice and early. So it is a good time to enjoy some coffee with him as we get to hang out early in the morning. If you're curious about the Athletic Training Daily Journal, head over to clinicallypress.org. In the shop section, you can download a 14-day free trial via PDF that you can get an idea of what is included in that and what the full book might look like. You can also find the full PDF version there if that is a better option for you than getting it off of Amazon. Again, we want to thank our friends at Mueller Sports Medicine for everything they do for us with the podcast, but also the profession of athletic training. If you have needs or questions or just want to check something out, get in touch with them. Their sales reps are second to none and just a fantastic people. But thank you again for listening and supporting Athletic Training Chat podcast and therefore the profession. And if you have a story you want to tell, we want to hear from you. Please let us know, and we look forward to talking to you soon.